Admiral of the Fleet Andrew Browne Cunningham, 1st Viscount Cunningham of Hyndhope, KT, GCB, DSO and 2 bars, was a British admiral of the Second World War. Cunningham was widely known by his nickname of ABC. Cunningham was born in Rathmines in the south side of Dublin on 7 January 1883. After starting his schooling in Dublin and Edinburgh, he enrolled at Stubbington House School at the age of 10, beginning his association with the Royal Navy. After passing out of Britannia Royal Naval College, Dartmouth, in 1898, he progressed rapidly in rank. He commanded a destroyer during the First World War and through most of the interwar period. He was awarded the Distinguished Service Order and 2 bars for his performance during this time, specifically for his actions in the Dardanelles and in the Baltics. In the Second World War, as Commander-in-Chief, Mediterranean Fleet, Cunningham led British naval forces to victory in several critical Mediterranean naval battles. These included the attack on Taranto in 1940, the first completely all-aircraft naval attack in history, and the Battle of Cape Matapan in 1941. Cunningham controlled the defense of the Mediterranean supply lines through Alexandria, Gibraltar, and the key choke point of Malta. He also directed naval support for the various major Allied landings in the western Mediterranean littoral. In 1943, Cunningham was promoted to First Sea Lord, a position he held until his retirement in 1946. He was ennobled as Baron Cunningham of Hyndhope in 1945 and made Viscount Cunningham of Hyndhope the following year. After his retirement, Cunningham enjoyed several ceremonial positions including Lord High Steward at the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II in 1953. He died on 12 June 1963, aged 80. Childhood. Cunningham was born at Rathmines, County Dublin, on 7 January 1883, the third of 5 children born to Professor Daniel John Cunningham and his wife Elizabeth Cumming Browne, both of Scottish ancestry. General Sir Alan Cunningham was his younger brother. His parents were described as having a strong intellectual and clerical tradition, both grandfathers having been in the clergy. His father was a professor of anatomy at Trinity College, Dublin, whilst his mother stayed at home. Elizabeth Browne, with the aid of servants and governesses, oversaw much of his upbringing. As a result, he reportedly had a warm and close relationship with her. After a short introduction to schooling in Dublin, he was sent to Edinburgh Academy, where he stayed with his aunts Doodles and Connie May. At the age of 10 he received a telegram from his father asking, "Would you like to go into the Navy?" At the time, the family had no maritime connections, and Cunningham only had a vague interest in the sea. Nevertheless, he replied, "Yes, I should like to be an admiral." He was then sent to a naval preparatory school, Stubbington House, which specialized in sending pupils through the Dartmouth entrance examinations. Cunningham passed the exams, showing particular strength in mathematics. Early naval career. Along with 64 other boys, Cunningham joined the Royal Navy as a cadet aboard the training ship HMS Britannia in 1897 following preparatory education at Stubbington House School. One of his classmates was future Admiral of the Fleet James Vaughan Somerville. Cunningham was known for his lack of enthusiasm for field sports. Although he did enjoy golf and spent most of his spare time messing around in boats. He said in his memoirs that by the end of his course he was anxious to seek adventure at sea. Although he committed numerous minor misdemeanors, he still obtained a very good for conduct. He passed out 10th in April 1898, with first-class marks for mathematics and seamanship. His first service was as a midshipman on HMS Doris in 1899, serving at the Cape of Good Hope station when the Second Boer War began. By February 1900, He had transferred into the Naval Brigade as he believed this promised opportunities for bravery and distinction in action. Cunningham then saw action at Pretoria and Diamond Hill as part of the Naval Brigade. He then went back to sea as midshipman in HMS Hannibal in December 1901. The following November he joined the protected cruiser HMS Diadem. Beginning in 1902, Cunningham took sub-lieutenant courses at Portsmouth and Greenwich. He served as sub-lieutenant on the battleship HMS Implacable in the Mediterranean for 6 months in 1903. In September 1903, he was transferred to HMS Locust to serve as second-in-command. He was promoted to lieutenant in 1904, and served on several vessels during the next 4 years. In 1908, he was awarded his first command, HM Torpedo Boat No. 14. First World War. Cunningham was a highly decorated officer during the First World War, receiving the Distinguished Service Order and 2 bars. In 1911 he was given command of the destroyer HMS Scorpion, which he commanded throughout the war. In 1914, Scorpion was involved in the shadowing of the German battlecruiser and cruiser SMS Goeben and SMS Breslau. This operation was intended to find and destroy the Goeben and the Breslau, but the German warships evaded the British fleet and passed through the Dardanelles to reach Constantinople. Their arrival contributed to the Ottoman Empire joining the Central Powers in November 1914. Though a bloodless battle, the failure of the British pursuit had enormous political and military ramifications. In the words of Winston Churchill, they brought more slaughter, more misery and more ruin than has ever before been borne within the compass of a ship. Cunningham stayed on in the Mediterranean, and in 1915, Scorpion was involved in the attack on the Dardanelles. For his performance, Cunningham was rewarded with promotion to commander and the award of the Distinguished Service Order. Cunningham spent much of 1916 on routine patrols. In late 1916, he was engaged in convoy protection, a duty he regarded as mundane. He had no contact with German U-boats during this time, on which he commented, "The immunity of my convoys was probably due to sheer luck." Convinced that the Mediterranean held few offensive possibilities, he requested to sail for home. Scorpion paid off on the 21st of January 1918. In his 7 years as captain of the Scorpion, Cunningham had developed a reputation for first-class seamanship. He was transferred by Vice Admiral Roger Keyes to HMS Termagant, part of Keyes' Dover Patrol, in April 1918, and for his actions with the Dover Patrol, he was awarded a bar to his DSO the following year. Interwar years. Association with Cowan. Cunningham saw much action in the interwar years. In 1919, he commanded the S-class destroyer Seafire, on duty in the Baltic. The Communists, the White Russians, several varieties of Latvian nationalists, Germans, and the Poles were trying to control Latvia. The British government had recognized Latvia's independence after the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. It was on this voyage that Cunningham first met Admiral Walter Cowan. Cunningham was impressed by Cowan's methods, specifically his navigation of the potentially dangerous seas, with thick fog and minefields threatening the fleet. Throughout several potentially problematic encounters with German forces trying to undermine the Latvian independence movement, Cunningham exhibited good self-control and judgment. Cowan was quoted as saying, "Commander Cunningham has on one occasion after another acted with unfailing promptitude and decision, and has proved himself an officer of exceptional valor and unerring resolution." For his actions in the Baltic, Cunningham was awarded a second bar to his DSO, and promoted to captain in 1920. On his return from the Baltic in 1922, he was appointed captain of the British 6th Destroyer Flotilla. Further commands were to follow, the British 1st Destroyer Flotilla in 1923, and the destroyer base, HMS Lochinvar, at Port Edgar in the Firth of Forth, from 1927 to 1926. Cunningham renewed his association with Vice Admiral Cowan between 1926 and 1928, when Cunningham was flag captain and chief staff officer to Cowan while serving on the North America and West Indies Squadron. In his memoirs, Cunningham made clear the high regard in which he held Cowan, and the many lessons he learned from him during their 2 periods of service together. The late 1920s found Cunningham back in the UK participating in courses at the Army's Senior Officers' School at Sheerness, as well as at the Imperial Defence College. While Cunningham was at the Imperial Defence College, in 1929, he married Nona Byatt. After a year at the college, Cunningham was given command of his first big ship, the battleship Rodney. 18 months later, he was appointed Commodore of HMS Pembroke, the Royal Naval Barracks at Chatham. Promoted to flag rank in September 1932, Cunningham was promoted to flag rank, and aide-de-camp to the King. He was appointed Rear Admiral in the Mediterranean in December 1933 and was made a Companion of the Bath in 1934, having hoisted his flag in the light cruiser HMS Coventry. Cunningham used his time to practice fleet handling, for which he was to receive much praise in the Second World War. There were also fleet exercises in the Atlantic Ocean in which he learnt the skills and values of night actions that he would also use to great effect in years to come. On his promotion to Vice Admiral in July 1936, due to the interwar naval policy, further active employment seemed remote. However, a year later, due to the illness of Sir Geoffrey Blake, Cunningham assumed the combined appointment of Commander of the Battle Cruiser Squadron and second in command of the Mediterranean Fleet, with HMS Hood as his flagship. After his long service in small ships, Cunningham considered his accommodation aboard Hood to be almost palatial, even surpassing his previous big ship experience on Rodney. He retained command until September 1938, when he was appointed to the Admiralty as Deputy Chief of the Naval Staff, although he did not actually take up this post until December 1939. He accepted this shore job with reluctance since he loathed administration, but the Board of Admiralty's higher regard of him was evident. For 6 months during an illness of Admiral Sir Roger Backhouse, the then First Sea Lord, he deputized for Backhouse on the Committee of Imperial Defence and on the Admiralty Board. In 1939 he was made a Knight Commander of the Order of the Bath, becoming known as Sir Andrew Cunningham.